Hi guys, gsn.com, and I'm here with the Sony Xperia Z1 and I'm here to perform a review of the handset. So the Xperia Z1 is a 20 megapixel camera phone, as you can see right here. It was launched in September 2013. It's a waterproof phone, and at gsn.com you're going to witness its full and detailed review. You can find this product on Amazon for $580, and it's basically, if you want a short description, an upgraded Xperia Z. Okay, as far as the design is concerned, we're dealing with a handset that measures 8.5 millimeters in thickness. It weighs 170 grams and it's a bit large for a 5-inch handset. We've seen a lot of those last year, and this one is actually in a different category because it's much bigger. This time it doesn't have glass sides like the Xperia Z, as you can see. We got aluminum and plastic on the sides. It's also a dust-proof phone and water resistant of up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. This one is called the Omni Balance design, invented by Sony, and I have to say it's a design that was followed by the Xperia Z and by the Xperia Tablet Z, so you can find some common grounds between them. As I said, we got an aluminum frame as the skeleton of the phone. The handset feels pretty solid when you hold it in your hand, also pretty resilient, and the lids on all of its ports and slots are pretty easy to open up with simply your hand without a special tool, which is a pretty cool thing, and much easier to open than on other waterproof devices. This handset is actually 3 millimeters wider than the LG G2, and that one has a 5.2-inch screen, so it's a pretty massive phone. By the way, this is bigger than most 5-inch phones, so remember that. Okay, so let's analyze its sides. At the front we got a camera right here. We got a bunch of sensors and notification RGB light here. On the left side we can find 2 slots, each one with a special lid for water protection. They got a special rubber protection against water. So here's the micro SD card slot. This is the micro USB port. I'm putting the lid back on. These are 2 pogo pins for a special dock that charges the device. On the right side you can find the big slot for the micro SIM card. Here it is. I'm going to pull it out. This is where you put your micro SIM. And then there is the trademark on-off button, trademark metallic on-off button from the Xperia series. There is also a very small volume button here. It's actually pretty hard to find when you're trying to feel it from the side. And finally a very small camera button right here. And finally this little lanyard hole in the corner. At the top we got the audio jack, and that's basically it. At the bottom we got the speaker. This is not the entire speaker, only half of it is actually the speaker part. And meanwhile at the back, camera and flash. And this is a big dust and print magnet. You'll see throughout the review. We'll cover it up with grease, with dust, and let's say for example cat hair. So if you have a cat, you'll see that your phone is filled with dust and cat hair all the time because it's a big magnet. Overall, the Xperia Z1 is too big and quite a bit different from the other modern designs because it's massive, and also there are those lids to fumble with, which some people may not like. Now on the hardware section, let me begin by showing you that we've got here a TFT LCD screen that can show 60 million colors, and this one is a 5-inch Full HD display. This display supports 10-finger multi-touch, and it also uses technologies like Tri-Luminous and X-Reality. And by the way, Sony offers on this handset a pretty powerful CPU. It's a quad-core Snapdragon 800 clocked at 2.2 GHz, and the GPU is the Adreno 330. As far as the storage is concerned, well, we've got here 16 GB of internal storage. We also have 2 GB of RAM, and on the micro SD area it supports cards with up to 64 GB in capacity. On the connectivity side, a wide variation of options. We got quad band GSM GPRS Edge, HSPA with 42 Mbps download speed, LTE with up to 150 Mbps theoretically, also GPS, GLONASS, Wi-Fi Direct, DLNA, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, and from that side micro USB port. Well, it's actually a micro USB 2.0 with MHL support. And now we got a 20.7 megapixel camera with LED flash and Exmor RS sensor, up front a 2 megapixel camera, and in a section I like to call and others, accelerometer, proximity sensor, active noise cancelling, and we also got the gyroscope, compass, stereo FM radio with RDS, And the battery here is a lithium ion unit. It's a lithium ion 3000 mAh unit, of course no removable. On paper it should provide you with 880 hours of standby functioning or 110 hours of music. Well, in our test that you can see right here, we went from 100% full battery. As you can see, we took it to the steps. We started at 100%, then we got to 91%. Here we go, and then we got to 2%. Okay, it took us 7 hours to deplete this battery. What we did was leave the Wi-Fi on, turn the brightness at 50% and play a video in a loop. So we achieved 7 hours of HD video playback, which I would say is pretty underwhelming, especially if you compare this handset to others. So once again, 7 hours of HD video playback on this device. As you can see pretty clearly here, the screen was on the whole time. We watched the video continuously, achieved 7 hours. Another disappointment here is how long it takes to charge the battery via micro USB. It took us 3 hours and 50 minutes, which is huge. The performance of the battery is not far from the one of the Xperia Z. However, at least it's superior compared to the Nexus 5 that only gives you about 4 or 5 hours of usage. I have to say that with moderate use, you'll be able to get out of it a day and a half of normal usage, but the charging is the one that bothers me the most. Of course, you can do some power management. You can go right here in the power management section. You got a special stamina mode that disables mobile data and Wi-Fi when the screen is off. You can also add apps that are active in the standby, and a variety of other options to customize. We got a low battery mode that disables functions in order to save power when the battery level is critical. There's location-based Wi-Fi that will activate the Wi-Fi automatically when in range of a saved network, and this is the battery usage that we had recently. Overall, I would say that the battery is a bit of a letdown, especially since the LG G2 with a bigger screen and the same battery capacity gives you 9 hours of playback, while this one only gives you 7 hours. Okay, so now as far as the audio is concerned, we got here the Walkman player that you can see right here with a nifty screen organization. We got a bunch of settings to show you, a lot of them actually. This is the sound effects area. We got a feature called Clear Audio Plus that allows you to automatically optimize the sound settings for listening to music. And then there's sound enhancements, which is basically a way to say equalizer. Once again, a huge array of settings available here. You can play with the clear bass option, you can custom it, you can use some predefined equalizer settings, and another settings area with some options for surround, studio, club, concert hall, clear stereo to reduce crosstalk between left and right channels, clear phase to adjust the quality of the internal speaker, and X loud to enhance the loudness of the internal speaker. So those are all the options you can play with. A lot of them, but in the end, does the sound actually sound right? Okay, so let's see it. Let's check out this artist that we got right here and play some tunes. This is the maximum volume. And let's tweak the settings now. That's Clear Audio Plus. And now let's try the option called X Loud. And aside from this organization of the music, let's see, we got another one. Aside from organizing them by artists, songs, albums, or playlists, there's also a feature called Sense Me. It allows you to select music by moods, so if you're feeling relaxed, upbeat, mellow, or emotional, you can choose a special track. And all the conclusions, well, I have to say that the user interface may look nice, but the music experience was a bit underwhelming. I found this speaker to be quite a bit distorted, and the guitar has a pretty bad sound, very distorted, and the voice rather screams out at you. So this speaker feels sort of broken. I must say that it can be the isolation against the water that gives you this broken sound. It's basically like one of those speakers that you cranked up to the max and then you broke it, then you try to listen music on it, and that's the result. As I said, the guitar is pretty loud, exaggeratedly loud, the voice is bothersome, so the speaker is pretty disappointing. In our package, in our test package of the Xperia Z1, we didn't have earbuds bundled with it, which is a bummer, so yet another minus on the audio side. Now as far as the video is concerned, this one is a TFT LCD screen, and I'm going to use a test sample to show you what this screen can do. Okay, so this is one of our test samples. Let's actually try to see it in landscape, so here we go. TFT LCD screen, 5-inch, 1080p. You can actually use some cool features while you're watching it. We got sound effects here with all the cool options from the audio player available here. And let's see what else. Display settings, we got X reality for mobile that will enhance the image, supposedly. Brightness options, as you can see, we cranked it to the max. Sleep and pulse notification light. Okay, so yet again, this is the experience. By the way, X reality for mobile is used to enhance the image and create a better viewing experience. What I can say that we got good colors. The view angles are not that good. Everything becomes whitish once you change the angles, and that's a bit annoying. I have to say that at least the colors are realistic, and if you want some figures and stuff to figure out, this is what the screen looks like on white. Using a microscope, you can actually go and try to see the pixels. We got here 373 lux units on white, which is pretty good actually, and on black, when we attempted to use the microscope and lux meter, on black we achieved 11 lux. That's huge, and a big disappointment because the black is simply too white. This is the whitest black I've seen on any handset out there. The pixels are of the RGB stripe kind, and let's see what else we got here. This is the picture that will show you that we use the lux meter on this device. So 11 lux on black and 373 on white. As I said, impressive white, very disappointing black. Of course, Sony throws around the terminology like triluminous, X reality. That means wider color palette, noise reduction, and sharpness. But I have to say I'm very underwhelmed by the screen, especially by this whitish hue. So there is a perpetual white applied on the screen. At least the colors are good, the brightness is okay, and it can become a bit tiresome for your eyes if you're watching movies on it, all this white. So in the end it's a bit of a letdown. By the way, if you like to mess around with the video player here, you'll see that it doesn't offer native support for AV, MKV or XVID. Now moving on to the camera, this one is a 20.7 megapixel shooter with a 27mm wide Sony G lens and f2.0 aperture. The sensor is a Sony Xperia RS. The camera also comes with BSI, and this sensor is actually 70% bigger than most of the sensors on phone cameras, which is very impressive. By the way, the size of the sensor is about 1/2 of an inch, 2.3 inches. We also have an LED flash and the Sony Bion Z image processor. Let's actually enter the camera. We got the camera button right here. Keeping it pressed, trigger the camera. I'm going to use this little castle here as a sample. I like the frame rate of the interface very much. As you can see, it's very real time. It doesn't feel at all to be delayed. And now let's check out the user interface. So on the left side, we got right here the flash options and then some settings. Let's see. So we got here the self-timer, smile shutter, preview, burst with long press, face registration. Then there's the video with a few options like steady shot, smile shutter, self-timer and microphone, and then some casual settings like quick launch, geotagging, sound capture and data storage. These are only available if you use this mode, superior auto. Of course, if you choose manual, there are more modes. Okay, so let's discuss each of them. As you can see, we got the shutter button here and the video capture button here. And next up you'll see all of these options here. So the first one is Superior Auto, that takes photos and videos with automatically optimized settings. Then there's Manual. This one enhances the features on the side that you can actually customize. So for example, we got scenes with a ton of options: soft skin, anti-motion blur, HDR, backlight correction HDR, night portrait, handheld, twilight, pet, snow, party, document. Very impressive. Next up, there's the white balance, flash again, and a ton of other options like the resolution. You can go up to 20.7 megapixels or 50:48 over 39:36 in 4:3 aspect ratio, and a variety of other options. Also got self timer, HDR, focus mode with some options here, ISO that goes up to 3200, metering options, and image stabilizer, preview, and face registration. Yet again some options. So this is the perk of the manual mode, a ton of options to customize, including stabilization. There are also video options. Once again, scenes, of course different ones from the photo, white balance, video resolution, full HD 16:9, self timer again, smile shutter, HDR for the video, focus mode yet again, metering, steady shot, microphone, and these ones that were available earlier. So if you like it manual, you like to customize your options, you can go to manual. Otherwise you can select Superior Auto. There's also a feature called Info Eye. Of course it's giving us a tutorial, although we've used it before. What Info Eye does is actually it shows you landmarks, wines, books, and stuff like that. It shows you information. So if you're in Paris and you want to see info about the Eiffel Tower, you press landmarks and that's it. If you have a book in front of you, you press books and that's solved. Business cards the same. So landmarks, you can line up the landmark the best you can, keep it level with the camera, and you should get info. As you can see, it's searching through the text, QR codes, and other options. For starters, it gives you local info, activities nearby. It tries to cover all of your needs. It's a bit of an augmented reality application, if you can call it that way. Okay, we move even further. We got something called Social Live. Basically, it's a live feed from your camera to your Facebook account. Total invasion of privacy. Let's go back to the camera and let's continue these options. So Social Live, we move past it. There's also a feature called Time Shift Burst. This one actually takes 61 pictures in about 2 seconds. It's a burst shot that allows you to pick the best pictures you've taken among the 61 frames. So it's a pretty cool feature if you're catching a surfer or a skater doing a cool trick. And then there is the funky feature called augmented reality effect. Basically you can add cookie stuff in the background, for example a dinosaur near the castle. As you can see, a jungle is given birth here and a dinosaur is walking on the test table. You can do the same. Let's see other options here. Let's say we use a fairy tale. Actually, Sony is very keen on such features. We've had augmented reality games on the PlayStation Vita, and now also a similar feature here. We move even further to something that's called picture effect. We've got a bunch of artistic effects. As you can see, there's a bit of lag here. We got nostalgic, miniature, vivid, fisheye, sketch, partial color, Harris shutter, and kaleidoscope. And finally, we find ourselves in the sweep panorama area, and those are all the options we can play it on the device, excuse me. And let's see, let's try to actually take a pic. So I'm going to choose Superior Auto to find the best situation here, and I'm going to use the camera button. As you can see, the picture was taken pretty fast, and let's see what we got here. Pretty good level of detail. You can see the castle's name easily, and these towers, so the picture has a good level of detail. There's a slight bit of indoor noise, which is a pretty specific thing about this camera. I have to praise the very fast capture of the camera and also the very fast zoom. There is absolutely no lag when zooming, which is a nice feature of this phone, and yet again, very fast capture. I'm guessing that with KitKat it will become even faster. There's a slight lag now because the Intelligent Auto is feeling that this is a document and not something that you can take regularly. By the way, aside from all these cool features, you can also add extras, just like you did with the lenses on the Windows Phone devices. So every day there's a bunch of new options, which is very cool. Now I will access the gallery and show you some of the pictures I've taken using this phone. So let's exit here. Okay, internal memory not, SD card. Here we are. These are the photo video samples that we've taken using the phone. So let's start with each of them. I have to say that we got realistic colors, good white balance, very good close-ups, especially in the pictures with snow, like this one. This one is a moving tram and we caught it without a motion blur. And this is a close-up with snow that I like very much. Realistic colors yet again. Keep in mind those are taken during winter, so they're all the more impressive because the conditions are basically low light all the time. Some effects applied here, fisheye and that pencil effect. We also took a panorama, that looks hot. So up until now everything is okay, but there are also some minor defects. You probably know, if you watched other gsndon.com reviews, you know I always complain about the focus. Well, this handset, the Xperia Z1, doesn't have focus problems, while the LG G2 and the Nexus 5 had them, so this is a good thing. I find the quality to be somewhere in the area of the Galaxy Note 3 and the equivalent of the Nokia Lumia 920. Of course, it's below the Nokia Lumia 1520 and the 1020. I also like the exposure values very much of this camera, and the fact that outdoors there's absolutely no noise and no problem, only indoors some problems. Of course, this camera is above the one of the Galaxy S4 and above the one of the HTC One and LG G2. So that's all as far as the pics are concerned. Very good colors, very good exposure, pretty good white balance, and absolutely no problem with focus. In the video area, so let me find a video sample or two. For example, this one. You got good stabilization, 1080p 30 frames per second video, so you can film in full HD at 30 frames per second, digital stabilization, and I have to say that it tends to lose focus, unlike the photo capture. The video capture will lose a bit of focus. Let's see another video. The stabilization is digital here, and a lot of quality is lost when zooming in, as you can see. We also got HDR video features. The bitrate of the files is about 18 mega per second. The sound is stereo with a bitrate of 132 kilobytes per second. There's a bit too much autofocus, but the level of detail is good. And other flagships nowadays will offer you 4K video capture and 60 frames per second full HD. However, this one doesn't, which I find to be a bit of a bummer. It has the needed CPU, it has the needed camera, but it does not offer you 4K video or 60 frames per second video, although it could. I'm wondering why not. Overall, the conclusion about the camera is that it's above the norm of Android handsets. It has a lot of options, but it's below the flagship Lumias. So in the world of Android, this is the best camera phone of 2013 among the smartphones, but in the world of Windows phones, it's beaten by at least 3 models from Nokia. Okay, now I'm going to show you some other things related to the performance of the device. Of course, we did some gaming, and of course we tested the temperature of the device. And let's see here, got a thermometer here that shows a huge temperature, 46.1 degrees Celsius, after playing 15 minutes of Riptide GP2, a huge temperature and a bit let down. This handset gets overheated a lot at the back, at the sides, and even at the front a bit, so be careful when gaming. 46 degrees is kind of hot. Now on the software side, let's see, we got Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean, and as far as the phone call is concerned, we got a loud and clear experience but sadly you can easily miss calls or texts because the ringtone is simply not loud enough. However, the vibration of the device is huge, and if you have tactile feedback activated, when you're typing you feel that the inside motor is exaggerated. Okay, now as far as the benchmarks are concerned, back to the album, back to the analysis, and back to searching for pics. Okay, this is the screenshots area, what I was looking for. I have decided to compare the Sony Xperia Z1 with the Nexus 5 and the LG G2 because they have relatively similar screen sizes and the same CPU. You'll see that this device actually handles benchmarks pretty well. In quadrant we scored 20,328 points, we beat the Nexus 5 and it's 8,000 points, we beat the LG G2 and it's 17,000 points. Next up, Antutu, 34,000 points, we beat the Nexus 5 and it's 22,000 points, and we beat the LG G2 and it's 33,000 points. In Nanomark, here we go, 59.9 frames per second, got beaten by the Nexus 5 with about 0.3 frames, we beat the LG G2 by 1 frames per second. This is a Full HD phone, so no differentiation of the resolution. In Velamo, a good score, 2,942, we beat the Nexus 5 by twice the score, and we beat the LG G2 barely by about 12 points. Okay, we move further with 3D Mark. Here we go, 16,225, got beaten by the Nexus 5 by 400 points, so basically the same score, and the LG G2 was behind this model by about 1,000 points. And finally, Browser Mark gave us a pretty good performance, 3,018 points, we beat both other models. So the conclusion is that the performance of the Xperia Z1 is excellent as far as web browsing is concerned, as far as the regular experience is concerned, and as far as the benchmarks are concerned. So let's actually check out the web browser, new tab, and let's access gsndo.com. By the way, this is the way to get to see the keyboard on this device. This is the virtual keyboard, quite comfy, quite well spaced, and this is gsndo.com, working pretty fine. Smooth scrolling, smooth pinch to zoom, and nicely viewable in both portrait and landscape. I like the seamless way of turning it from portrait to landscape and vice versa. Okay, so if you pinch the screen, you'll see that you can find a bunch of widgets, wallpapers and themes to apply here. This is the selection of widgets that are unique to the Sony experience. The interface is very fluid, you won't find any stuttering or lag. The interface is very clean, also slightly minimalistic, a lot of transparency, but it feels a bit antiquated nowadays. In the settings area, you will see that we can find the Xperia connectivity options that allow you to connect to a DualShock PlayStation 3 controller. Among other things, you can also throw content, play on other devices from your Xperia. For example, you can play pictures or videos on your PS3, do some screen mirroring on your TV, and all of that using that throw feature. Okay, so of course personalization options, and those are all the options you can find in the settings area, some for language and input and some for security. There's also a feature called My Xperia that will actually help you find your device if it's lost. God forbid that may be the case because this is an expensive phone. Okay, now we're at that part of the review where we analyze all the pre-installed applications on the device. So there's a side menu, as you can see, that allows you to show apps in alphabetical order, most used, installed, or your very own order. Okay, so let me start up with the usual Walkman, album and movies that handle your media, and then you'll see Sony Select. It's basically almost an app store from Sony. It can actually give you access to a bunch of cool games and apps. Okay, we move even further to social life. This one will handle your social networking and a bit of the news outlets you follow. It's basically Flipboard, an alternative to Flipboard. You can add more feeds here from technology or other popular stuff. Sports, local news, drinks. These are the settings. And let's actually try to access an article to see how it's shown. Of course, it's open in the web browser. You can only see a snippet of it in the application. This is how it's shown. You can change the font size, and it's actually more fluid than Flipboard, but it doesn't have as many sources as far as I know. Okay, next up after social life comes Smart Connect and a bunch of other features. So let's see. Of course, we got the usual maps included here, Google Maps shown on the screen, with its obvious options like bicycling, public transport, or simply the satellite view. Taking quite a while to load, slightly disappointing, the maps behavior in this review. Let's try satellite again. And let's try to get located if possible. Here we are, reasonably fast locating, but that loading time was a bit bothersome. Okay, so we move even further. We got calendar, contacts, FM radio, bunch of tools like calculator and backup. Next up, we got Track ID. It's a sort of a Shazam before Shazam was invented. You listen to a song, you press this here, and it will find out what song you're playing. As far as I know, you can use it while playing radio to find out what tune is on the radio. There is also Smart Connect here. It will allow you to set up your device for some special events. For example, if it's night, it will trigger a special functioning mode, disconnect charger at a certain hour, or stuff like that. It's very useful if you want to manage your power, use up less power and keep it green. Some special interactions with the charger, disable at night, headset, call key settings, music on the go disabled. So basically, if you connect an accessory to this device, with Smart Connect you can control it. Okay, next up there's McAfee for security and antivirus and all that. And then there's Office Suite if you want to do a bunch of work on the go. This is Office Suite. So this is what a doc file looks like on this screen. Okay, go back and see other applications. We got voice dialer, play newsstand, play games, the update center, and an app called Notes that obviously allows you to take a bunch of notes. Got a title here, some font options, so only basic notes. Don't expect the arrival of the Samsung S Note. Okay, then there's Sketch. This is something I've drawn using Sketch. You can have a lot of fun with it. There are a lot of template stuff to use. So mustaches, pair of eyes, some hair. This is a weird creature. And let's try to place a hair here. And then you can simply start to doodle around, draw, play with a variety of options and simply sketch around. You can add hearts to it. It's becoming abstract. So this is Sketch. And then there's Pixel Express that you probably know already. Choose a photo, edit it with a bunch of filters and other options. I'm choosing the castle from earlier. We got the special Valentine options with heart stamps, some effects here, borders. You can also add some text to it, some stickers, a lot of them actually, and do some adjustment with a huge variety of options: brighten, heal, focal, splash, sharpen, smooth. So a lot of editing. Even Photoshop would be jealous. Okay, now let's talk a bit about the multitasking. As you can see, it's the usual one, the one that involves swiping apps to the side, but there's also a special area at the bottom that could be characterized as floating apps. As you can see, it triggers mini versions of several applications, like the timer or the calculator, or even the option to write a quick note. You can move them around the screen. Let's see what else. There's also a mini version of the web browser that you can also move around the screen. Some options here, opening another app and other things like that. Of course, you can also customize this experience. These are some of the apps you can trigger in this mode. You also got this one for screen capture. And of course, you can add even more small apps. I call them floating apps. Sony calls them small apps. You can add them from the Play Store or from the widgets. You can rename widget, delete or uninstall. And let's see. There's also the calendar in a mini version like this, movable around the screen. I've seen similar approaches to multitasking on Samsung devices and Asus devices, so the floating apps thing is pretty nice here as well. We got Xperia Lounge, keeps you up with every partner that Sony has, lets you know about the Sony Pictures movies and about the games that are related to Sony, PlayStation stuff, World Cup and everything they're involved in. Okay, and what else? Social life that lets you stream stuff from your camera to Facebook. So that's basically the entire experience of the Sony Xperia Z1. Time for the conclusion, folks. The pros and cons of the phone. On the pro side, it's a waterproof phone after all, also dustproof. It has good picture focus. It has a pretty loud audio. Of course, there are some effects here. The performance is very good. You can play any game on it, and I mean any game. There's no lag. The interface is very fluid. We have a ton of photo options, so you'll enjoy those a lot, especially on the manual setting. You can play with a ton of features and options and find the perfect experience for you. I have to say that the colors of the screen are pretty realistic, and the colors of the pics as well. And finally, the build is solid. Those are the pros. Sadly, the cons are more than the pros. We got a weak battery compared to the LG G2, same capacity. The screen is whitish, as I said. There's a very long battery charge, almost 4 hours. Who is ready to leave their devices for 4 hours nowadays? The handset is too wide and too heavy for a 5-inch phone. The interface is slightly antiquated. It doesn't feel modern, it doesn't have that punch. And the speaker tends to be a bit of a letdown, especially when playing guitar or voice. The sound may seem broken at times. When filming, there is a bit of a quality loss. There is no codec support. There is a very bad overheating. And we've barely got Android 4.2 here. KitKat, well, no trace of it, so a lot of defects for this handset. The Xperia Z1 gets from us a 7.5 out of 10 for design, for the hardware an 8, and for the operating system and user interface 8.5. Final grade is 8.5, the final grade is an average between those, so 7.5 for design, 8 for hardware, 8.5 for operating system, give us a total of 8 out of 10. This is still the best Android camera phone from last year, but remember, last year we're in a new year and it will probably have a solid rival. The speaker here and the display are the ones pulling it down, so gsno.com give this device an 8 out of 10 for the Xperia Z1. That's it, folks. Bye bye.